Hey, what's up? Thank you for tuning in to Women of Divine Inspiration. It is your very own Alicia coming to you with some inspirational videos. If you are new to my channel, do not forget to subscribe down below. And don't forget to click the alarm button so that you can be reminded of any future or new videos that are posting. Let's get into the topic. Today we're going to discuss Christianity and abuse, or being a child of God and suffering from abuse. I know abuse, or being a child of God and suffering from abuse. I know that this is a touchy subject. However, it has to be talked about. Regardless, many people run from this subject. Why? Because they do not want to face the reality of their situations. And unfortunately, I am a victim of abuse. And I was a victim of abuse. Let me retract that. I was a victim of abuse. And I am a survivor. And I thank God for allowing me to survive through what I went through, and even allowing me to go through what I have gone through. Because had I not gone through my experiences in life, such as abuse being one of them, I would not be the woman that I am today. I would not be here inspiring and pushing and motivating other people and women to become better people. So here I am. So go ahead. I'm going to give you a few minutes to grab your cups. Yes, I got mine. Let's sip on some tea, which mine is coffee because I am a fan of coffee. So get your cups. Let's go. Let's talk about it. And let's go to God. See what the Lord has to say about all of this. So go ahead, grab your coffees, grab your tea, grab your water, and let's get the sipping. All right. Okay, y'all. I'm so excited about this topic. Well, not really, because many people are suffering in this moment from abuse. But I am excited to give you a word so that you can know how much God loves you and to be able to discern that suffering from abuse is not of God. I got my notes. I'm ready. Hope y'all ready. Let's go. As we know, today's topic of discussion is all about abuse and how we can overcome abuse and to be able to recognize if we are being abused and what God has to say about abuse. And so I will be definitely bringing scripture into play because that is what I go off of. I am a reader of my word. Many of you know that already. And I'm not ashamed of the word. So let's get into this topic of abuse. Many of us have suffered from abuse. It may have been physical, mental, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, which is mental, sexually. We have experience many forms of abuse. Sometimes we're not able to recognize the fact that we are in an abusive relationship. Sometimes we recognize the fact that we are in an abusive relationship and we choose to stay still. We choose to stay in that relationship. Sometimes we choose to stay in those relationships out of fear. Sometimes we feel like we love that person too much to let them go. Sometimes we get in the we receive, or we think that this is love. Being abused is love. Oh, he or she loves me because they're abusing me. And then they come back and apologize and say, oh, I'm so sorry. And guess what? We forgive them. Why? Because many of us believe in staying in an abusive relationship despite what we may be going through. There may be times that we feel like we have more ups than downs. But how do you recognize abuse in any relationship? Whether it's physical, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually. How do you recognize that you are being abused? And so I want to bring you some tips on this so that you are able to recognize if a man or a woman, a boy or a girl are physically abusing you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, however it may be. And so, just so you know, I am a survivor, which I stated, of abuse. I suffer from spiritual, mentally, emotionally, sexually, all kinds of abuse, verbally. I suffered. So I am able to recognize when I have been abused. And we must understand that there is a circle, a trend that takes place with the abuser or the person or the victim. Sometimes we may become victims or vulnerable to abuse because this is what we've seen in our own household. And sometimes our upbringing, we were able to see that we were being, or our family members were being abused, and we think that it's okay, that this is the way that a relationship is supposed to be. Sometimes the victim, not the victim, but the person, the abuser, sometimes may have seen in a relationship that this is the way that it is supposed to be, that they are to be dominant, that they are to be aggressive, that they are supposed to stand firm on everything that they do in a relationship. And so, they have the tendency to grow older and become abusers. And so being able to recognize if you are abused, meaning that if you see someone, or if you are in a relationship to where a person is disrespectful towards you, they're calling you dumb, they're calling you stupid, they're calling you ignorant, they're calling you names that is not your name, that tears you down in a way mentally and emotionally, then you are in a abusive relationship. If someone is causing you to have sex with them against your will, and it's something that you are not okay with, and you have stood firm on your beliefs and said, no, I do not want to have sexual relations with you, then you are in an abusive relationship. If someone is telling you certain things about yourself, they're always pinpointing every negative thing about you and are telling you that you are not good, you're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough, you think you look cute in that, or you think you look good in that. No, you don't. You need to take that off. You are in an abusive relationship. If someone is touching you against your will, putting their hands on you, whether it's hitting you, whether it's slapping you, whether it's rubbing on you in wrong places that you should not be rubbed, then you are in an abusive relationship. If you are being crying a lot, you find yourself crying because someone have hurt you, and with words or with actions, then you are in an abusive relationship. We have to be able to recognize abuse. We have to be able to recognize what it is that is taking place that are causing us to become emotionally distraught. We have to be able to take steps in becoming better people, better women, better men, better boys, better girls. We have to be able to recognize these things. And when we are able to recognize abuse, we are better able to pick ourselves up and become better people. We are able to get ourselves out of relationships, abusive relationships, quicker. Sometimes many of us stay out of fear. Sometimes we have gained, sometimes people, we have put ourselves in positions to where we feel like we have been with a person for so long, we don't know nothing else. We don't know nobody else. This is all I know, and we tend to stay there. Sometimes we may become dependent, codependent upon this person, and then a dependency begins to build up to where we feel like we cannot be nothing without that person. And me, I want to be the person to tell you, you are worth more than what you may be settling for. If you find yourself in an abusive relationship, it is time to do some self-evaluations. It is time to think about things and see things in a different light if you are in an abusive relationships. An abusive person does not know love or does not know God. And I say this because God is not a God who hurts us. God did not create men and women to abuse each other, to take advantage of each other, to manipulate each other, to do anything to harm each other. God is love. And if we know that God is love and we are to be like Christ, if we are to walk in relationship with the Lord, then we must understand that God did not create us to be abused. He did not create us to be talked down on. God, yes, God chastises us. Whom he loves, he's going to chastise. That's just like if you have a child and your child did something wrong and you know that it was wrong without a shadow of a doubt. 9 times out of 10, you are going to chastise that child. You are going to sit down and talk to that child, or you're going to punish them in such a way that will cause them, not physically, not emotionally, but I'm saying like take things away from them that will lead them or make them know that I was wrong for this. And what happens is a conviction will begin to set in. And the same thing goes for us. God will convict his children. He will convict us, and it's only because he loves us. However, he did not cause man or woman, boy or girl, the power. He did not give them the power to control us. Many abusers want to control their victims. We have narcissistic behaviors. Many people have narcissistic behaviors. And those are people who like to manipulate situations. They like to have power over people. They love to be dominant. And people like this, we have to be careful of. And so I say that an abusive person does not love God or know what love is, because in the Bible, in 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, it says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love," I'm going to say that again. "He who does not love does not know God, for God is love." And that came from the New King James Version. God is love. When God created us, he created us in the image of his son. He created us in his image, which means that we are to love. God said that we are to love each other despite our differences, despite what we may be going through. A person is not to, how can I say this? A person is not to control you. It's not. People say, well, if I'm married, I'm supposed to be submissive to my husband. Yes, you are to be submissive. Being submissive to your husband does not mean allowing a man to abuse you. Being submissive to your husband does not mean that you are allowing him to physically, emotionally, whatever type of abuse it may be, you're not to allow him to do that. To submit to your husband, meaning that you love that man despite whatever it is that he may be going through, whatever it is that he may be doing, not abuse, okay? Because God did not create us to be abused, to be punching bags for anybody. God did not create us to give up our goods to anybody. God did not create us to allow other people to control us. Hear me out, okay? If you are in an abusive relationship, you have to do a self-evaluation. You have to be able to recognize these things. Violence, we must understand, is definitely a characteristic of unfaithfulness. Do you hear me? Violence is a characteristic of unfaithfulness. And I say this because in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 2, New King James Version says, "A man shall eat well by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul," do you hear me? "The soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence." You may say, "Well, Alicia, I love him or I love her, and I can